recording?
The recording has started by me.
Okay,
Excellent.
all right.
Thank
cool.
you.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
all right.
We'll just go around the room and introduce everybody if possible. Linda, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Linda Summers. I'm a returning councillor of Snow Monaro, and I was an endorsed Labor candidate.
Narelle Davis, returning councillor from last council, and I'm an independent councillor.
Trisha Hopkins, returning councillor from last council, independent.
River Rose.
Nick Elliott from Jindabyne, first term.
And Andrew Thaler, the bloke with the most codes of conduct in all of New South Wales, apparently.
And on the screen, Councillor Higgins, you'd like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Tanya Higgins, returning councillor and also a Labor councillor.
Right.
I'm Chris Hanna, the mayor, and then staff in the room. We've got Angela.
Angela Somerville, Chief People and Organisational Performance Officer here at Council.
Steve Dante, as I introduced.
Simon Rennie, Chief Financial Officer.
David Rawlings, the Chief Strategy Officer.
Luke O'Sullivan, Coordinator Governance.
And on screen, John.
John Gargett, Chief Infrastructure and Projects.
And Peter.
Peter Smith, acting for Tony Murray, who is Chief of Community Services.
Thank you.
John, if you can just mute yourself again, I think you've got quite a bit of background noise. There you go.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, over to you.
I'll
Brett.
introduce myself too, if that's okay. So I'm Brad Wade. I'm the Director of the Investigations Intervention Team of OLG.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for that. And I just, for the benefit of the recording, just reflect that if there are, what I said earlier, if there are matters of legal issue that I'll either take on notice, but also this is a policy conversation and not a defined legal view of either the Minister for Local Government or the Office of Local Government. In other words, that I feel that this is an important information session. So I appreciate if people will take that with that sentiment. So look, the performance improvement order has now been served. The performance improvement order, in my mind, effectively has three components. One is to ensure the continued operation of the continued work and trajectory on the financial improvements of the council. This is something that the previous council started, and it's something that is important in terms of the continued functioning and operation and delivery of local services to the people of Snowy Monaro. The performance improvement order also has both governance and behavioural elements to it, and in that there is a requirement that each councillor sign the behavioural elements of the performance improvement order. We wanted to do it in this way so that it was quite clear that councillors have an obligation. You have your oath, but this is also reinforcing the oath that you've provided to ensure that you're complying with the code of conduct, and that the behavioural concerns that have been expressed to the Minister for Local Government, expressed to the Office of Local Government, can be, I suppose, improved and managed over time. It does not change the investigation nor the rights and procedures for any code of conduct investigation that's going on at the moment. So it's separate to that, but we are obviously aware of those concerns and complaints. The consequences of a councillor not signing the performance improvement order would be that a councillor would be unable to undertake their functions and duties until the order had been signed. But I understand that we've started to see some of those signatures come through, so I do appreciate that. This doesn't mean that the council is in administration. I suppose we use a performance improvement order as an escalating method and process to identify concerns. It is quite clearly a very serious matter, and it quite clearly provides a very serious trigger for the minister to act if there is concern about behaviour, governance or financial issues at the council. We have performance improvement orders in place at the moment in 5 councils. Was 6 actually. We have one in Georges River, which is associated with some historic governance issues, and we're seeking to update that. We have a performance improvement order in Kiama, which is associated with financial performance concerns. A performance improvement order in Edward River, which is associated with governance issues and some behavioural elements within the council, and that has with it a temporary advisor to the council around how they undertake their meeting processes. And then there are performance improvement orders in the 3 councils that have recently come out of administration, being Balranald, Wingecarribee and Central Coast. And in those cases, the performance improvement orders are effectively guide rails on decision making within the first year of those new council terms, and they ensure that drastic decisions are not taken without some degree of forethought, or if there is a desire to continue to progress with what I call a drastic decision around a fundamental change to the budget or delegations, or a decision around the general manager's employment, they need my concurrence to those matters. So that spells out for you what the performance improvement order is designed to do. It imposes a level of reporting on the council, which is more formalised. We have had a high degree of reporting from Snowy Monaro in the past, so this is formalising that process. It is also setting out some clear expectations of the minister, and then if those expectations are not met, or if they are breached, then it gives the minister the opportunity to consider the next step in the enforcement process, which could be a temporary suspension of the council and the appointment of an administrator for 3 months, or it could lead to the potential for the minister to call a public inquiry, and from that basis undertake and from that basis, a suspension, a more permanent suspension of the council would occur. Public inquiries have been called at Central Coast, Balranald and Wingecarribee, which led to them being put into administration. We also have a public inquiry that is being conducted into Liverpool Council right now, and that's been done by an independent commissioner with independent external instructing solicitors, and we'll have an independent council advising the commissioner. So I sort of spell that out in terms of what some of the processes are, what some of the consequences are. Assuming you all accept the PIO, sign the PIO, provide, stay within the behavioural, the grounds of the PIO, and provide the regular reporting that is required, then it will just continue to roll over. If there is some deviation from that, then we talk about other enforcement and or intervention mechanisms which are spelt out in the Local Government Act. So that was probably in a nutshell what happens and what the role of the PIO is. I'm happy to take questions.
I'll start if that's okay, and then I'll move around the table. I just want to understand, when you mentioned just a minute ago about people that don't sign, they won't have the functions of being a councillor anymore. How does that work? So our deadline was today.
Yeah.
So hypothetically, I don't sign. Am I a councillor tomorrow?
You'll still be a councillor tomorrow. You just can't undertake the functions of a councillor until you sign. So if there is more detail that you want on that, that's something that we can provide.
So what does that mean? Am I I've got a council meeting next Thursday. If I don't sign today, am I allowed to go attend that meeting next Thursday and vote?
No.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, Andrew?
I've got a range of questions.
Andrew, we ask a couple questions and move around,
Yeah,
and then we'll
I'm
come
happy
back.
to share the
Yeah,
time.
Thank you.
But taking off what Mr. Hannah just said, where is the process, either in law or in your letters, that says that if this isn't signed, that somebody then can no longer be a councillor? I don't see that spelled out anywhere. And normally when you make decisions, you've got to give 28 days notice for decisions to take effect, for people to take legal advice, etc. This agenda of the Office of Local Government seems to be on the fly. So Mr. Hannah's question is quite salient. If he, for example, hasn't signed by today, where in your letters have you spelled out the proper full process in accordance with law that says he can't be a councillor tomorrow? Because I don't recall reading that anywhere.
That's in the legislation, councillor.
Where?
So
Take me to it.
Take you to it. I'm not going to do that because I respectfully said that I'm not going to engage in a legal conversation. So, but it is in the legislation in relation to the issue of performance improvement orders and the consequences of not signing a performance improvement order.
Righto. And another question, is this actually the minister's letter and the minister's decisions, or is this your office's decisions? Because you actually said the words "we" when you were discussing this performance order. We implies Office of Local Government. And I just get the feeling that this is not from Mr. Hoenig. Mr. Hoenig's riding alongside of your decisions and your initiatives. So are you going to be able to clearly say that this is Mr. Hoenig's decisions and Mr. Hoenig's expressed wishes, or are these your wishes because you use the collective term "we" too many times in your opening presentation?
Sorry, Councillor Thaler, I do try and embrace cohesiveness and collectiveness and collaboration. So I do tend to use the "we." You will note at the letter, at the bottom of the letter, at the bottom of the performance improvement order, the signature is that of the minister. The power to issue the performance improvement order is the minister's. This is a decision that the minister has taken with advice from the Office of Local Government, of course, but it is the minister as the elected official with the power delegated by the Local Government Act by the Parliament of New South Wales, and that is the power that he's exercising.
Okay, I've got more questions, but I'll pass it back.
We go. Nick, do you have questions? You can come back like this.
Yeah, no, that's all right. I must admit, this feels like we're working for your department. Do you want to talk about the timing? We've had 3 council meetings. It would appear to our community that we haven't had much of a chance to really show whether we can operate properly as a council. You've got 11 people who have come together and you're all jumping on us very quickly. It does seem unnecessary. And I conveyed that when I sent a letter to the minister.
Mm-hmm. I will say that I've never seen, the Office of Local Government has not seen a level of escalation of concerns so quickly after a council election as we have here.
What sort of concern? Can you amplify that statement?
Councillor, that was in the performance improvement order. We're not taking away your power. We're not taking away your ability to talk to the community. We're setting out behavioural, governance and financial expectations, and using, in terms of those financial expectations, these are the financial expectations that you've been working to, the previous council has been working to as well. We're just codifying them, I suppose, and putting them into a more legislative sense and taking them being from voluntary to being mandatory. So we're not removing the role of the operation of the council, but we have the behavioural issue that has been expressed to us through the various channels, to the minister, to the Office of Local Government, through members of Parliament, through councillors, through a number of avenues, have identified that there is quite a considerable degree of concern and that I don't believe any of you believe that the finances of the council are in a state that you are happy with, and and I don't believe anyone believes that we should be working to improve the finances of the council. And so this is the key issue that we need the focus. Council to be ensuring that services are still being delivered for the community, and that the council is a financially viable and ongoing concern and can do that. And that is what the importance of the performance improvement order really is about.
I still bring it up. You really didn't answer the question, but that's okay.
Sorry, well, I didn't answer the question the way you wanted me to answer the question. I did answer the question.
I asked about what, well, to me,
it's in the performance improvement order, councillor. It's in the performance improvement order.
And
the reasons are in the performance improvement order.
Okay, let's talk about the finances. We're very confident in our financial controller. His guarantees that we're on track budget, and by the end of June, we'll have 1.7 million in the budget. Sorry?
Unrestricted cash.
Unrestricted cash. When the council's come from 65,000 in that position, I really think it's heading in the right direction. Hence my thing about timing.
Councillor, I said to you that we have acted. Of course, the key concern has been the continued improvement in council's finances. And I am saying like that there is an absolute recognition that council has improved its financial position from where it was a number of years ago. It has absolutely done that. And we don't want to see any behavioural or governance at the council level impact on that financial improvement. So, and I also said that this is effectively making what was voluntary, effectively voluntary obligations or voluntary, of commitment to the Office of Local Government by previous councils, the previous general managers. We're just making that mandatory. We're not seeking to impose financial improvements over those that you've already identified to deliver.
I would have thought over the 4 months, it would not in any way caused any problems on the financial side.
No, and I'm not saying that, councillor. I'm saying that the trajectory of improvement needs to continue. It's going to be a longer term, the 4 months, and we don't want to see that get lost.
I guess beg to differ on the timing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes. I've just got a preliminary clarification on that question. Mr. Whitworth, what's your main desire in calling this meeting quite close to the, you had a reason to call this meeting?
So, sorry, we called it.
I requested it. It was offered in the minister's letter.
Yes.
And it was offered that Mr. Whitworth would make himself available.
Right.
I chased that up
right.
and requested it. I thought councillors would appreciate that opportunity
right.
and to do it as soon as possible, given that you only had 7 days to sign the undertaking. So it was actually quite convenient that we could do it today, which is the last day to provide that written signed undertaking.
But I would really, just in background then, it's helpful for us to know, I suppose you've given us some preliminary material which is helpful just to let us know what other councils involved, PIOs and various parts of your thinking. So I understand with 128 councils to deal with, this is just a minor issue for you folks because you have other work on. I suppose just in my perspective, I spent a day or so reading through all the sections of the Local Government Act under 438, which are extensive. As the minister's got enormous powers to do really anything he wants. But I discovered an important point, I think, that I'd like you to just say if I'm on the right or wrong track. And the important point is this. that the issue really isn't the performance improvement order. The issue is complying with performance improvement order. Now, from a legal point of view, and you're not a lawyer, neither am I, but just from first principles, it seems to me it's something like you already have the oath that we've all taken, and this is just reinforced. Now, I don't think you can hyper compliance. You're either complying or you're not. There's a model code of conduct. There's a local government act. We've taken an oath. The issue really is the legal basis of a signature to something that we've already signed up. Because what you're asking us to do in the performance, or what the minister's asking us to do, no more to comply with something we've already complied with, meant to be complying with, and the repeat are not complying. So the legal basis for a hyper compliance, it can't exist. You can either compliant or not. So my reading of this really isn't that the signature is the important thing, it's the compliance. Can you just clarify that?
Well, I think the signature is a recognition of the concerns that are expressed in the performance improvement order around the behavioural elements, the governance of the council, and the financial issues. And when I say governance, I'm talking about how meetings occur and the meeting practices. So the oath of office doesn't necessarily cover all those three elements. So the signature is a way of making sure that you're aware of that process. The performance improvement, we don't always go to the step of making the individual councillor sign the performance improvement orders, but we have done that, and we have done that in the Georges River, previously in the Georges River circumstance, and in fact singled out some particular council laws. But I felt that the way in which the issue had unfolded, and this was my advice to the minister, the way the issue had unfolded here is the concern to make clear to every councillor that you equally share a responsibility to, and I think, Councillor, you talk very well about the compliance and compliance with the principles of the performance improvement order. So it is really making sure you're aware of that. I don't want to go into the Act and what the Act says in terms of non-compliance and the various provisions. There are actions that can be taken against individual councillors. There are actions taken against the council as a whole. There is the investigation and the procedural elements associated with code of conduct and the procedures for the administration of the code of conduct. So those things do fold together. But I do, words around this is about compliance with the order is important, and I agree with you on that.
Thank you, because I understood then there's compliance, so there's a way for you guys to monitor.
Yes.
In terms of compliance.
Yes, sorry if I could just add to that's a very good point, because we've been receiving reports from the council about its finances, quite extensively, but we're moving that into a more formal setting with those compliance reports.
Just one further point, just in relation to that part. The minister has the option to appoint an advisor to the council, and also to appoint a financial advisor. Is that still in the minister's sort of view to take one of those two actions?
The appointment of a temporary advisor is typically where there are governance issues, and that we see a clear inability of the council to be able to resolve governance issues, and that was the reason why the minister wanted to appoint a temporary advisor for Edward River. In terms of a financial advisor, that's where there is a view that the council's finances are not able to be managed by the council itself. We had a financial controller, because there's also the ability to have an advisor that has a financial perspective. So that was we had a financial advisor appointed for Kiama, but they were an advisor. We we don't believe, the information that's being doesn't suggest that a financial advisor or a financial controller is necessary at Snowy Monaro at the moment, because previous conversation, you are actually on a trajectory of improvement in terms of finances, and this is about continuing to maintain that and not have other issues distract you from that process. So at this point, my advice to the minister is that we don't need a financial either advisor or a controller.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
For sure.
Sure. So a little bit from Councillor Rose's comments and questions. I was wondering if you can clarify a bit more in terms of the reporting. It sounds like the reporting's going to need to be fairly comprehensive in addition to as you mentioned, the financial reporting. There's obviously seems to be a requirement monitoring social media and any other interactions. Well, that seems to me to be a huge strain on resources. Can you clarify a little bit more how you envisage the reporting would be undertaken?
Well, sorry, I mean, normally the reporting is I would envisage that the staff would provide you with a report at a council meeting. You would review that. You'd resolve, accept it or not accept it or amend it. That report would probably have an accompanying table that would identify responses to the elements in the performance improvement order. I'm happy to go it sounds like if there's an operational concern about how that might be done, and if it's going to overload the administrative capacities of the council, I'm happy to hear any concerns about that, and we can to the minister about whether there needs to be an amendment if that's going to be a significant concern. I'm sorry, I don't want to. I'm not in a position where I can actually get into the detail on that, and I wasn't intending to, but if that is a concern, we can talk to the staff about how we can that reporting process is appropriate to the concern. I don't want to overburden council with a reporting requirement that is not important or germane to the key issue.
Thanks, that's helpful for now.
Thank you. Tanya, I'll go to screen and then I'll come back to you guys. Any questions, Councillor Higgins? Not there. Narelle?
Yep, no,
Oh,
I
sorry.
have no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett, for your time. I know that you focus on our finance and you've actually acknowledged our finances are on the trajectory that we should be on. And we've put a lot of work into that. That has required a lot of work from this council to actually do that. What I want to talk about is the key issue here, and those are work health and safety issues that have been identified in the performance improvement order. And that there is a requirement from councillors to be their social media, how they actually undertake emails, how they talk to staff, and the fact that we need to have a level of respect. And the improving performance order is about respect, basically. And the fact that we will need to report against that, I think to finance is a total distraction. We're not talking about the main issue here, which is health and safety issues that have been identified.
Okay, thank you, councillor. My concern about council as an ongoing entity is it stems from its financial position and the way in which the council is delivering its service, which stems from its governance processes, and the way in which the council come together and make decisions and interact with each other, which comes from which the behavioural elements. So I've talked about all three elements. I think I wanted to give you the narrative as to why we felt it was important to include the financial elements, because of the concern about the governance and it's because the concern about the behavioural. I don't want to get into a point of admonishing people about social media use or not. Councillors have a right to use social media. They have a right as individuals to social media. They have a right as councillors to use social media. I think that it's important to remember that even though you do not, a lot of councillors look at the Workplace Safety Act and say, well, councillors aren't mentioned as being, responsible entities. But as individuals, you have a workplace health and safety obligation, just as I have just as I have a workplace health obligation to you all, as a public servant dealing with councillors, or as an individual, if I was talking to councillors, I have a responsibility not to scream at you. That is the same responsibility that councillors have to their staff, to people in the community. So there is information that Local Government New South Wales has been providing to council, and I would encourage you, if you have questions about that workplace health and safety obligation, to look at that and to pick that up.
Linda.
Yes, I have one quick question in relation to process. You mentioned at the outset that should the PIO be, the behavioural part of the PIO be either transgressed or actually breached, then the next option could be the placing of the council into administration or suspending the council temporarily. Is there an option? I guess it's about the majority, I guess, painted with the same brush, where it could be just a few individuals. Is there an option for particular councillors to be suspended rather than the en bloc approach?
Yes. Yes, there is. And that's why the performance improvement order is structured the way that it is. And again, I don't want to pass what the legislation says. But the legislation does set out accountabilities individually and to councillors as a result of non-compliance with a performance improvement order.
Thank you for that clarification.
I've got more questions.
Yeah, I'll just say staff. Does staff have any questions? Should I go back through councillors?
I've got one. Yeah, Brett, Stephen here. Brett, just on that, just to follow on from that and your earlier response there, and his comment about suspension of individual councillors, and if they don't sign the undertaking, then they cease to have the authority to function as a councillor. The process for that, should you get 11 signed undertakings back, is there a process then that any councillor who has not signed would be advised by the minister in writing that has been enacted, or is it just an automatic thing to say you would advise me that we haven't received X, Y, and therefore I tell the councillors they can't participate in the next council meeting? What's that mechanism?
That mechanism, I would say that there are natural justice principles that would suggest that would not automatically just say that you can't take up the role of a councillor, because we do ascertain whether there are any particular impediments that prevent you from signing that, and you need to be given an opportunity to demonstrate why that's the case. So we would, if we don't receive 11 signed notices, we would then more than likely be writing back. I don't like that hypothetical at this point, and I would need to take advice both from the team as well as from my legal advisors, and I'd also need to ensure that I was advising the minister as well.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Brett.
I've got a couple of questions. I've got a question for you as well, Mr. Wade. Investigator, have you concluded your investigations into the alleged code of conduct or public interest disclosures that have been made allegedly about me that the minister published in his letters twice?
No, we haven't.
spoken to me about any of the allegations that were allegedly contained in the 19 conducts or now public interest disclosures?
I'm not going to go into investigations. That's a separate process to this PIO, and this conversation we're having today is about.
So you've published, or your office has published a summary through the Minister of complaints, thereby disenfranchising the complainants, allowing to be identified, and you've defamed me in public by the process prior to it even commencing. Is that appropriate?
Councillor Thaler, here's a question that they won't be going into detail. I understand that, but as Mayor, I'm running the meeting. They will not answer those questions. You can raise them afterwards. We are here to talk about the performance improvement order, and that is what we're here to talk about.
What if, Mr. Mayor, the improvement order is founded upon the corruption of not investigating allegations, publishing allegations in the media? It doesn't give the minister the legal basis to do what he's doing, and this is the opportunity to check with the department directly. If you want to shut me down,
I'm not down. I think they've answered the question where they've stated to you that they're not getting involved in the investigation of things.
They are the investigators.
They're not, but in this public thing, they're not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is what you've stated.
I'm not going to, and would add, Mr. Mayor, that we've given that advice to Councillor Thaler in writing.
Thank you.
And a very important question. In Schedule 3, it says, I, Councillor X, Monaro Regional Council in brackets, do hereby give the following undertaking. I will, A, refrain from making statements orally that a reasonable person may consider offensive. Can you provide a definition of the reasonable person, or should I rely on that contained in Wikipedia?
Well, if you want to rely on Wikipedia, Councillor, go for it. Love to see you do that. I think what we do is we rely.
I don't need to answer, Mr. Whitworth.
Sorry,
it is
sorry, Councillor. Well, I'm happy to talk over the top of you too, if you want me to. I can talk over the top of people if you want.
Good. So
you asked me a question. And I'm responding to your answer. The reasonable persons. You're right. You finished? Any more?
I've asked you to answer without mocking. I asked you this question, answer in a serious way. It's important.
Yes.
Thank you.
Reasonable person is a. There is common law around what a reasonable person is and what an apprehension of what a reasonable person might consider. So the principle be applied. And I just want to add, mock me with the Wikipedia. So fair's fair, mate.
I'll tell you straight. If I read it here from Wikipedia page about reasonable person, the reasonable person belongs to family and hypothetical figures in law, including the right-thinking member of society, just bystander, the reasonable parent, the reasonable landlord, the fair informed observer. If you go further, you'll also come to the common law principle of the man on the back of the Clapham bus. Are legal fictions that are used as a test, which are very difficult for a magistrate or judge to go by because they are not properly defined, not legal principles, they are fictions, which is why I asked you the question, where do you find your definition of a reasonable person? Because there's a bunch of reasonable people here at this table and we're all very different.
Councillor, my is that there is a legal test. You've drawn from Wikipedia that test is, I can't remember your exact words, but not what the legal test, like the legal test is based on common law precepts, and the courts will interpret that, and the principle that is the approach that will be used. Now, apologies that this was going to be a 15-minute series of questions. Now I've got something that I need to go to at 12 o'clock. Yeah, at 1 o'clock.
I'll ask you to take a question on notice. Can you go and get a legal person, and you can provide us that information?
Sorry, Councillor, I will not do that because I will not obtain advice for you.
No, it's for our council, for everybody here. you clearly that there is no legal standard of a reasonable person. You is, I say there isn't. Let's
Thanks,
get
Andy.
that clarified.
Councillor Thade, thank
Can
you.
you get legal?
No, I won't, councillor.
Thank you very
Not on
much. Thank you very much for your time, Brett and Brad. You guys come in and notice, and we'll go from there and see what happens. We sign and move on.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Brett.
Your time.
Thank you.